So there is a Scott Ferrier who is an Olympian in Australia as far as a track athlete. I'm not talking to that version of Scott Ferrier, although I'm talking to somebody who you could say has reached the Olympics when it comes to sports broadcasting, at least the level in which he operates. It's Scott Ferrier, sports producer, director, Pac-12 Network, and he works on a national level, a regional level, and has done so much great work in the industry. And we are going to highlight his career, but not just his career, learn more about his personal life, his full story here on the On to Something podcast. I'm Bryan Fenley with Fox Sports Radio, on Twitter at Bryan Fenley. So, Scott, I wanted to first of all appreciate you coming on. I know you've seen a couple of my other conversations with some of your colleagues. Like any good athlete, like any good Olympian, there's a lot of training that goes into it. So, what is the one event that you've worked over the course of your career where you've had to do the most preparation for in
That's
pulling it off?
that's a good question. In my experience with Pac-12 Network, there have been I've worked a lot of events that you wouldn't typically work elsewhere. For instance, like cross country, wrestling, and rowing. Those are three that I've kind of been thrown into the last few years, and really didn't know much about it before I got started. So this took a lot of prep and learning terminology and just the way the sports operated, because you want to be respectful of people when you do their sports. You don't want to minimize what they do if it's not a run of the mill usual sport you see on TV. You really want to get into it and dig into it, and you really want to get the nuts and bolts of it. So those were three that I've really had to learn. Growing up, I always was into sports. I'd watch Wide World of Sports as a kid and see all the odd sports. So I had some experience with watching these sports that not many people watch. And those are like I said, those are the three sports I've really enjoyed doing that not a lot of people see all the time.
You you said fighting for the respect of your peers when working those sports that don't always make the mainstream as far as television is concerned. What about if we go back to you at the inception, the beginning of your career, and you fighting for your own respect or the respect of others, that is, in showing and proving your worth and your abilities to say, hey, I can do this. I can make it in this business. What was it like mentally for you trying to build up your brand in the business?
Uh, Basically, if you show up on time, work hard, people will notice. It's not rocket science, really. If you show up, work hard, do your prep work, pay attention, be respectful of the people above you, take advice from them. It's really not difficult. There's no secret sauce. You know what I mean? It's pretty easy.
One of the things that it seems like he's got a secret sauce is there's so much athletic genes in your family. And I wanted to talk about this because I know we're
Yeah.
going to talk about the business side of what you do, but also I want people to become more endeared to what you are like when the camera is not on, even though we're kind of
Mhm.
on a
Yeah,
camera
kind
here.
of
But
on,
you get the gist of it all here,
yeah.
where we show the personal side of you. Your son. Now, I've seen some of the clips. Such a natural golf swing
Yes.
at such a young age.
Yeah.
Where did he get those athletic genes, and why did it not show up as much for you?
I don't know. Well, I would say so. Going backwards, my grandfather and my father were both golf pros and teaching pros.
Okay.
Um, I started playing baseball before I kind of played golf really seriously. So there's a lot of baseball in my swing, which is hard to get out of. My son hasn't gotten into he plays baseball here and there, not organized baseball, so he hasn't gotten the baseball portion of the swing in. So he's just a natural perfect turn in his swing, and I don't know how to explain it, but he rips the ball. It's unbelievable. We go to the par three course nearby in the summer, and he will legitimately make pars and bogeys on this par three course at 5 years old. And he actually beats me on holes. It's really kind of astounding. But I found the most important thing is not to teach technique. Just get him out there, let him grip the ball like a bat, and let him just hit it as far as he can, and let him have fun with it. And if he makes a 10, we don't really keep score. If he makes a 10 on a hole, who cares? If he makes a three, that's great. It doesn't just out there to have fun and put the ball in the hole and enjoy the sunshine.
So in athletics, he impresses you. How in your pursuits professionally do you hope to impress him,
Mm.
and so that he can look up to you and say, look at my dad and what he's doing?
Well, I hope in the near future to be able to start taking him on to work with me and to work trips. He's a little young now. He'd probably get a little bored. 2 or 3 years from now, I hope to take him on work trips and be able to let him sit in the room with me and see what I do. Because it's really a fun environment. It's something different. It's not, a 9 to 5 job where you're sitting in a cubicle. And I really think he would enjoy it. He enjoys sports for the most part, so I think he would enjoy seeing what I do. Whether he wants to follow my footsteps, that's up to him. But I think he'd enjoy watching the sports from a. He'd enjoy what he enjoy. He would enjoy seeing what Daddy does.
How much do you feel like you're reliving your childhood in a way through your son?
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, it's funny. We've just recently got a Nintendo Switch, so we're playing video games all the time now. We're playing a lot of Mario Kart, so there's a lot of going back to playing video games again, which is fun. I didn't done it in forever, and I didn't, I kind of put that stuff away a long time ago. But it's fun to be able to sit there and play Mario Kart with him or whatever on the Switch, and just kick back and have a good time, and just not stress about anything.
When you're in the production truck, it's like an exaggerated version of playing a video game in a sense. You've got all these buttons to push. Whether you're a producer or a director, you have a formative role in how the broadcast goes. What is your demeanor, Scott, in game, no matter what the broadcast is like, that allows you to, like any athlete, perform at their best level for you to perform at your best level?
Well, I think for me, I just got to try to keep it, not take it too seriously. If you take it seriously, you get stressed, and if you get stressed, then you start making mistakes. I try to keep it light, make jokes. Make jokes. I always say, look out the windshield and not out the rearview mirror when I'm doing a show. So if you're looking back at mistakes, you're going to make other mistakes. So mistake happens, move forward. We can talk about it after the show. We have a beer and sit down after the show and talk about mistakes. But once we're in the show, let's just keep moving forward, and we don't need to rehash what happened, because if we keep hashing on a mistake that just happened, we're going to make other mistakes. So let's just move forward, and we'll talk about it later.
Growing from those mistakes and putting out the work that you are today, what do you think are your best attributes as a producer slash director, and why you're so appealing to so many networks who want your services?
Well, I think being in the producing role, I've had to really be much more organized than I was in the past. Um, Organization was never one of my top strong suits, so I really work on that pre-show with setting out graphics and tape ideas and formats, and kind of laying everything out in an organized fashion so that so my brain doesn't get too harried, and so I'm not all over the place. It's the organization is really what helps a lot. As far as demeanor, I'm a pretty happy guy most of the time. I like the people. I really love the people I work with. It's just a wonderful brotherhood and sisterhood of people in this business. And I just love being around them, and that makes it easy to work.
Yeah, how does loving the people you work with, how does that, and people don't realize this, the casual TV fan, how like a good team has continuity, has a chemistry, but a good production crew, how that can put up an even better product on the screen, and how you've seen that in your own experiences.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that question? Sorry,
Oh,
Brian.
yeah, yeah. So let me see here. So like a good sports team that has chemistry,
Mhm.
and that ends up leading to success on the court, on the field, what a lot of casual sports fans and television fans don't realize is that really good chemistry in the production truck can lead to an even better product
For
on the
sure. Yeah,
screen.
absolutely.
In your experiences, how have you seen that come to fruition specifically?
Um, I don't know. I can't, cite any specific examples, but when you go to work and you see the same, 90% of the shows I do, I see the same people, and we were kind of become a family, and we bond. And you take interest in people's lives outside of the work. You take interest in people, when people have a bad day, you see it and you try to help them through it. When they have a good day, you encourage it. Um, and the tough thing is, like, unlike a team, you can't call timeout when things are going wrong. When you get to commercial break, you can kind of figure things out. But uh, when you're in the heat of the moment, you need people there you trust, and you got to trust people like a family. and those people are like a family to you when the red light goes on.
When the red light goes on, what kind of communicator are you with the broadcasters as far as what you want to convey, but also letting them do their thing at the same
Right.
time?
I think a lot of it goes back to being prepared pre-show and talk about the things you're going to talk about. Uh, Obviously, you can interrupt talent with the buttons, but it's best to not, or at least I found it's best not to interrupt them too much or say too much. Less is more. You don't want to give them too much information and make them listen to you when they should be listening to their partner in the broadcast. So I like to, the more you lay out ahead of time, the better it is, and then you can reference. We hit a button. We talked about talking about number 33 earlier. Here's the graphic. Something, just make it as easy as possible for them, so they direct them where they need to go. Yeah, like I said, the more you do pre-show, the better, and so you don't have to interrupt them while the show's going on. And then obviously talking to them during the breaks helps. You can say next segment we're going to talk about this, and this coming up, unless something crazy happens.
How often do you look at other producers if you're in the producing chair and compare how you do things to what they do from a learning perspective, and to say, sort of like, my peer does this, I might look at that. It's sort of like, Scott, when I worked in local television, the news directors would always watch their competitors in their office. They would have the TV screens up for the 5 o'clock news just to see what they led with and see if it was different than theirs. So from your perspective, how often are you looking at other producers and picking up knowledge or learning things from them?
All the time. Every time I'm watching a show, or every time I'm watching a sports broadcast, there's a little bit of the producer in me watching what the elements they put in. I try to sit back and watch it as a fan, but sometimes the producer creeps in and says, "Oh, that's a good idea. That's not a good idea. I would have done it a little different." And early on in my career, I would actually go on and get notes and stuff and look at storylines for a game I might watch later and just say, "Oh, let's see if the producer does this." If there's a great story, I'll see how they approach it. Just pull stuff, and then it kind of taught me how to lay out my own shows later on.
How do you think your approach to making it in this business was possible from when you were in college and you were at Cal State San Bernardino? And what were some of the takeaways that were ingrained in you then that gave you the fight and the fortitude to pave this trail and this path that you've set yourself on now in this business?
It's interesting. When I went to Cal State San Bernardino, I was one of the first one or two classes to have a TV program. So when I graduated, there wasn't a large surplus of alumni I could reach out to. So I kind of had those of us in those classes kind of had to find our own way a little bit. So, like my buddy, originally I planned on working on movies when I got out of school, and I worked on one, and it was really hard. It was 16-hour days, 6 days a week, overnights. It was tough work. And I thought, this is not really what I want to do with my life. So I didn't even consider sports TV as an avenue for a career when I was in school. Don't know why. It just never really occurred to me. So a buddy of mine got a job at Fox Sports West at the time. And I was like, well, it's interesting. That sounds fun. So I went and interned for a little while and just worked my way up. After about a year, I ended up getting a job as a PA for the Dodgers. So I sat in the booth with Vin Scully for, I think it was 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah. That was just an amazing experience. To be with him was amazing. As far as a career path for me, I wasn't really moving forward. So after a couple of years, I opened up a job here at HDNet in Denver, which is Mark Cuban's group. So I thought to myself, like, if I want to move to the front chair in the producing role, this is probably a good shortcut to that. So I packed up, moved to Denver in 2005. It's been 16 years now. Was there for 5 years before I got laid off, and Pac12 Network came along at the right time for me.
Go for it. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. HDNet was great. Yeah, early on, I was producing NHL and MLS games. And then those rights went away, and then did some mixed martial arts, and then of all things, professional wrestling for a while, which was actually fun. Different but fun. But I did the way they did wrestling wasn't really the way I wanted to do things. They didn't want to do it live. They did it taped and had to sit in the edit room. And I'm not a sit in an edit room kind of guy. I'm a live TV guy. So But then Pac-12 came along in 2012, and it's just been the perfect fit for me. It's been
How,
amazing.
how did that partnership come along, and how did you and them make it work? Obviously, they started, if I'm not mistaken, in 2012,
12, yeah.
and then your ability to obviously take control of what they were doing in the region you're in.
Well, see, I got a call probably August 2012. Kyle Reichland, who's the executive producer, he reached out to me. I knew him at Fox Sports from my days at Fox Sports West. Reached
Ah,
out and said, "I have some games for you in, excuse me, I think it was in Oregon at the time." So I went there for a while. Just started cutting my teeth on shows there, and then just put together a good product. And Will O'Toole came along later as the coordinating producer for the Olympic sports, and he took a liking to me. And he calls me a Swiss Army knife. So I do a little bit of everything. So it's been a very good relationship for me.
when you're a Swiss Army knife, you're always employable. And
Well, yeah,
as you,
exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
and I saw, was it just a couple months ago, and we're joined by Scott Ferrier. I'm Bryan Fenley. You were doing a national championship in cross country.
Cross country. That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
So, in terms of a logistics, I know we touched a little bit on you doing cross country earlier in the interview, but from a logistics standpoint, this is not some confined arena that you
Right.
have cameras set up. This is
Yeah.
a much bigger terrain you're trying to cover. So, what is your approach to making sure you capture the event the best way possible?
Well, cross country is tough. I'm hired by my friend Tim Lay, who does it. He puts out he's the one who comes up with the plan for the cameras and all that good, and all the logistics for everything. I just kind of I do the storylines. If I try to do what Tim did, it would drive me crazy because there's just there's so many moving parts with cameras. It would just I that's not the way my brain works. My brain works in stories, not in logistics. So, but I mean, the way he lays it out is just amazing. And the thing with the cross country is it's different. Every track is different. It's not like a 400-meter track like track and field. You're talking a mile through the woods, and you've got to try to cover it with as best you can. So we employ drones and robos and POV cameras and cart camera and hard cameras where you can and man cameras where you can. And it's just last year or this past year at where were we? Florida State. It came together very well.
So Florida State came together really well. And you said that your brain works in storytelling. So I want to leave you with this final question. Scott Ferrier is with me. I'm Bryan Fenley. What would you go to as far as the story that most depicts your persistence, whether that's from a professional standpoint or a personal standpoint, where perseverance was something that you went to and it ultimately turned out really well in your favor because of it?
Boy, I don't know. I don't know if I can pinpoint a moment, but uh, I just tried to stick with this job, this career as long as I can because I really, really, absolutely love it. It's the best. I mean, it's tough because I'm working weekends and nights, and it's tough on the family. It's tough on my wife, and tough on the kids sometimes. I think, but I just love it so much, and I thank them for letting me have this great life. I can't thank my wife Megan enough, and my son Jackson enough to for letting me have this great life. It's just amazing. And being a father has really brought a new appreciation to what I do. The bad days aren't so bad, and the good days are even better. So it's I can't I don't want to do I believe I don't want to do anything else the rest of my life. I'm looking forward to doing this for 20 more years and walking away saying I never had to do anything else.
As a father, I can't wait, Scott, to see the face of your son and you when you are able to bring him on a trip with you
Mhm.
and you just see his eyes open
Yeah.
wide as he goes in the production truck and you get to show him what you do and just this look of wonder on his face. I hope you report back to me and tell
I
me
sure
what
will.
that's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
because that will have to be, as a father, a really special and proud moment for you and your family. Scott Ferrier, of course, with sports producing and directing extraordinaire, Pac-12 Network and beyond. I'm Bryan Fenley. This is the On to Something podcast. Scott, thanks so much for
Thanks, Brian.
opening
This has
up
been a lot
about
of
your
fun.
story.
Yeah, this is a
Really
lot of fun.
appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Brian. Appreciate it.